So let's get into this week's edition of Who's In and Who Is Out in the AFC. The Patriots 9-1, Buffalo 7-3. They do play each other one more time coming up. New England's got an interesting schedule down the stretch here. I mean, they got Dallas this week. They play the Texans. They play the Chiefs. Then they play the Bills. They do play the Bengals and the Dolphins, so a couple of gimmies for them. But there are some interesting games from them. So anybody going off the Patriots here?
No way. Patriots all day.
I got to say, after that lackluster offensive performance against the Eagles, I still have the Patriots winning the AFC East.
Most likely. Now, Buffalo down the stretch has Denver, Dallas, Baltimore, Steelers, Patriots, Jets. So kind of a mixed bag there.
Yeah.
That's funny. I was literally just writing down potential losses for the Bills. I was looking at their schedule as well, but I was going to get to it a little bit later for wild card stuff.
All right, let's go to the north. Baltimore, really 3-game lead up on Pittsburgh now. I can't imagine anybody off of the Ravens here. They've won 6 in a row, by the way.
It's all over. Clap, 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 clap.
They are actually closing in on the Patriots in differential.
Yes, they are. That would be a pretty, kind of a flashback to maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right? A little Patriots-Ravens in Baltimore, or even if it's in New England. Either way.
Well, right now it would be in New England, but Baltimore beat them head-to-head, so New England's going to have to keep that one-loss record going.
We had a good discussion about NFL MVP, and guess what? Lamar is making a pretty strong case for it now since that discussion. So
I want to go back now and look at each one's worst game. We've obviously seen them both have great games. I know Lamar was terrible against the Browns. And then the other game they lost, he wasn't so good. I want to see what Russell did in his losses.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Because it's really hard right now. I think that the novelty of what Lamar is doing makes people want to say, Lamar should be MVP, but what Russ is doing is pretty darn good too. So I mean, it's kind of like a vanilla or chocolate thing, whatever you like the most.
It feels like a Heisman race.
Yeah,
and that's
really
positive.
does.
It's cool.
Where it's like week to week, right?
Yeah, and you don't see that in the NFL a lot.
I think the one area that's interesting, you got Russell Wilson with 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Wow.
Okay, so that's pretty crazy.
That is
amazing.
amazing.
He's thrown for 2,700 yards.
It's unbelievable.
His rushing stats are 256 yards and 7 touchdowns. Okay?
Wow. So he's got
3 touchdowns.
Oh, I was going to say, this guy's got 30 touchdowns total already.
Lamar
26.
Jackson, on the other hand, has 19 touchdowns and 5 picks. So it's 23 versus 19,
right?
2 versus 5. So
pretty
Wilson
similar.
has that.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson's yards passing are 2258 to 2737. But the rushing, Lamar Jackson is 788 to 256, and he's got 6 rushing touchdowns to 3.
Wow.
Can he get the franchise tag as both a quarterback and a running back
Seriously.
and just double his money? Remember when the guy was a Jimmy Graham who wanted to sue and be paid like a wide receiver instead of a tight end?
That's what Bell wanted, too.
Right. Well, he should say, I want to be paid like a quarterback and running back together, combined.
and a receiver. Just throw it all in.
All right, Marty Morningweg.
Yeah. He's going to go over 1,000 yards rushing as the quarterback.
Yeah.
He averages 6.9 yards a carry, 78 yards a game.
How many attempts does he have? Rushing attempts?
115.
He's
a
better.
lot.
Is he better than Vic? He is, right? He's a better passer
Well, his
than Vic.
completion percentage is 66%.
Yeah.
I think so. This year, it's a
Wilson's
fair
is
argument, but
actually 68%.
I mean, it's early. We've got
it's
the
too
first
early.
full year, but
I
he's
think-
certainly on the trajectory.
The interesting part about both of these guys is they were not on the ledger at the beginning of the season. You didn't pick, Wilson is a great, great, great player, but you didn't have him in the MVP conversation at the beginning.
I don't know
of the year.
why. People were talking about him last year being up for it, but you're right. He wasn't. It's like Russell's just never a popular pick to start off the season as MVP.
no, he's like the boring greatness.
I don't know how, because he doesn't play boring. It's
No,
just
not
somehow,
at all.
It's this. I guess if he played for a franchise, like a New York or a Philly or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's Seattle. He's
He's in Seattle.
out of sight, out of mind a lot of times.
Right.
He's a hipster.
Ravens in the north. Let's go to the south.
That was my first thought.
You've got a tie in the south. You got Indy and Houston, both 6-4. You got Tennessee just a game back at 5-5, and Jacksonville still hanging in at 4-6. So all 4 teams are in play in the South with 6 to go. Geoff Mosher, yes.
Houston.
You sure?
Reluctantly. No, I'm not. I'm just going with them because I don't want to be. I guess I'm being stubborn. I've had them all year long. They are technically in a tie for first, so the way they got embarrassed by Baltimore does not give me a lot of hope. But as Mike always says, sometimes you just, you get a bad game one week and you're fine the next. So they still have a lot of components that are good, and it wouldn't shock me if the Colts are just like the Colts are week to week too. They'll lose to the Raiders, then they'll lose to the Dolphins. Granted, it was Brian Hoyer, but still, then they'll win. They'll beat somebody good.
It's tough. You look at the remaining schedule from both teams, and the Colts, in my opinion, they still have the Patriots.
Right.
They go up against the Texans this week, actually, on Thursday Night Football.
Wow.
So there we go. That's
Another
going to tell us
game.
a lot about the division, and then they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way, where the Colts, I see at least 2 losses, maybe 3. So I like the Texans slightly, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going Texans right now, but I'm kind of feeling uneasy about it. Their schedule's kind of up and down. Tennessee's been playing better. And by the way, of the 4 teams in the division, they've got the best defense. They've given up the least amount of points. And
what's their schedule?
They've won 3 out of 4 since Tannehill's taken over. And one of the things I talked about way back in the preseason is he wins. Yeah. He made the playoffs with the Dolphins. They won when he was the quarterback. When he didn't play, they were terrible.
He has a little bit of an Alex Smith feel to him.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You know, like he's just boring and game manager title, but he gets wins.
I feel like that's an insult to Alex Smith, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Poor man's
Alex Smith is better, yes.
Yeah.
But they're winning. I mean, they've won 3 out of 4 with him. And in fact, I was reading an article from Teron Davenport that they're the best team in the red zone since Tannehill's taken over.
How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That was always his strength, that short yardage in the box area. He doesn't really drive the ball down the field. But
he doesn't have that great arm, but he's an athlete.
Not bad for
a wide receiver.
Yeah, he played wide receiver.
Yeah. So I'm going the Texans because I think they have the best quarterback, but I don't feel great about it. All right, in the West, we've got 7-4 Kansas City, 6-4 Oakland, 4-7 Chargers. Kind of a 2-team race here. Anybody ready to go off of Kansas City?
No, I'm not. I think they're going to win out. They play the Raiders at home
this week,
Sunday at 4:25. So there you go. That could tell us a lot if the Raiders can pull off an upset on the road. But then the Chiefs go into New England. I think they win that game. And then they have the Broncos, Bears, and Chargers. I think those are all wins. So I do like the Chiefs to pull this one out.
You know the Raiders are 5-1 at home this year? A place that they're leaving, that they're just renting out, basically.
And they have been on the road, it seems like, for almost a month and a half.
Yeah.
So how did they play 6 home games
I don't know. It does feel
when
like
did that happen?
We must have missed those games, but they have the Jets coming up next. Guys, I got to say, I'm still sticking with the Chiefs.
All right. Well, I'm sticking with the Chiefs, too, but this game this weekend is going to be very interesting between these two teams. You got the game is in it's next week, actually. The Chiefs are on a bye this week.
Okay. I was looking at the next game,
They play next week.
The Raiders can run the rock, man, and the Chiefs' run defense, as we know, isn't elite by any
Raiders
stretch.
Control their own destiny here. They're in a good spot.
They are.
I feel like Raiders-Jets is actually an interesting game, given that the Jets seemingly, like, when they're healthy and Darnold's playing better, they take it to some teams.
Yeah, the Redskins.
And Dallas.
Dolphins.
Dallas was banged up big time. They were down.
The Raiders aren't exactly. I mean, I know they're 6-4, but this is not an inconquerable team. So I feel like this will be a good game.
Yeah. No,
so you think
the Jets' wins have come against the Giants, the Redskins, and a really beat up Cowboys team.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. They were without 2 starting offensive linemen.
I feel like Oakland's though not like on the kind of not that they're. I just feel like the Jets aren't as much of a train wreck, and the Raiders might be a little overrated right now. So this might be a decent game. It should be.
You enjoy that one. I'll watch something else.
All right.
Report back.
Heidi will be interrupting this game.
That's right. Not my Heidi Har. Wild cards. Ryan, who you got?
I have the Raiders. We talked about their schedule last week.
You're going with the Raiders.
Absolutely. Listen, they have the Jets, they have the Chiefs, which will be tough. Then they have the Titans, Jags, Broncos, Chargers. Like Gill said, I do think they control their own destiny here, and I can see them getting to 10 wins. So I'm going with Gruden and the Raiders. And then my other pick is the Pittsburgh Steelers, boys. I like what they've done.
Wow.
All right, they're sitting at 5-5, so they have some work to do.
What's the number of wins that you think needs to be the wild card in the AFC?
No, at least 6.
I would say, 10 gets you in. 9, I think you have a chance. Yeah.
Because Cleveland is 4-6. Their schedule is as follows: Miami, Steelers, Cincinnati, Arizona, the Ravens, Cincinnati again.
I think they
like
lose
that's
to
3 and
Pittsburgh.
3.
Yeah.
I'm saying every game there, I would assume, other than the Ravens game, are winnable for them.
Yeah, but also losable, like because they're
right.
You just don't know,
right,
but
yeah.
they have a chance.
You're
but
playing
Pittsburgh's not
Miami
losing
and
to them.
Cincinnati twice. That's 3 games of your final 6.
That's a win.
I feel like Miami might might pick them off. I don't know.
wouldn't
Where's
be
the game
shocked.
at?
It's in Cleveland.
Well, maybe not.
So, just throwing them out there. I don't have them in. I'm going Buffalo and Oakland. That Oakland schedule, starting to say, all right, they're just average enough to be good in that AFC, and nobody else stands out. I mean, Pittsburgh, their quarterback play is just so up and down. They got too many hits. Schuster might miss the game.
Yeah.
Connor might miss the game this week. Indianapolis, I just can't trust them. The rest of that South, I can't get involved with. So I'm going to go Oakland.
That's fair, and I just want to add one more point that I forgot to add, which is the Bills' schedule. So they still have the Cowboys, they still have the Ravens, they still have the Steelers, and they still have the Patriots. I think that's 4 potential losses for them. So I see a 9-7 potential finish for Buffalo.
All right, let's go to Mosher's.
My wild cards. Listen, if there's one thing that I have a lot of confidence in, and if I'm wrong, you guys are going to have every right to shove it in my face because you disagree.
Okay.
Is that the Raiders are going to collapse at some point at the end of the year. They're going to lose a game or 2 that they're supposed to win. And it might even be against the Jets. So I have the Colts and I have the Bills. I still think those 2 teams are stronger in the trenches than the Raiders. If anything, I could see the Titans getting in over the Raiders. But
wow,
that's just how I feel right
team
now.
We're getting mentioned as a possible playoff team.
Another team strong in the trenches.
Man, what a time.
Defensively.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. Titans in. Oakland maybe in. Buffalo. God almighty.
Buffalo.
Although Buffalo made it like 2 years ago.
Yes, they did.
After not making it for about 20 years.
That's correct.
All right, let's go to the NFC. See who's in and who's out in the NFC race. We'll start with Geoff Mosher.
All right. NFC East, you said, I believe?
Let's go, yes.
Dallas Cowboys.
He's got Dallas. That's a change for you, right?
No, I've had them last 3 weeks.
You made the change a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I did. No looking back.
I've been back and forth with the NFC East almost week to week now this month, and I'm back on the Cowboys. Last week I had the Eagles. I can't confidently say the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys, and I think that's a game that obviously is going to decide the fate of the division. And right now, I have the Cowboys winning that game.
Yeah, and I had Philly early, and then I quickly switched to Dallas and had Dallas for a while. I seemingly believed more in Dallas back then than I do now.
You did.
And I am going back to Philly here. And my reasoning is their schedule down the stretch is easier, and they're one of the best home teams in football. You're getting 2 chances to play at home against the 2 best teams. You split those 2 games, you're going to the playoffs. You beat Seattle this week, and then those 4 games, you're getting 10 wins, and that should be enough.
Can you imagine if Dallas had lost to the Lions, which they were losing at one point in that game? What would we be today trying to figure out who's better, the Eagles or the Cowboys?
Yeah. I think Dallas is an interesting spot. Now, if they beat the Patriots this week, I think they're in a good spot.
Oh, yeah.
Then they play the Bills. And I feel like, though, being Dallas, they beat the Patriots, then trip up to the Bills. And then they got the Bears and that defense. And I think that'll be an interesting matchup to see if the Bears can get their acts back together. They play the Rams, and then they play the Eagles. So, I don't know. Dallas is at 6. They got to find 4 wins in there. They got Patriots, Bills, Bears, Rams, Eagles, Redskins. So if they get to 10, if the Eagles get to 10, and the Eagles beat the Rams, the Cowboys, that'll be interesting because now you're looking at all sorts of crazy tiebreaker stuff. But that Eagles schedule, I think, is going to help them out. And it's going to piss a lot of people off probably because they're going to say, well, they're not really good enough. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Sometimes your schedule helps you get to a spot you really shouldn't be in. All right, in the North, we got Green Bay at 8-2. We got Minnesota at 8-3. Who do you like?
I've been on Go Pack Go pretty much the entire season, and I'm sticking with them. 8-2 leaders right now. Minnesota giving them a real tough battle there, but I think the Packers pull it out in the end, guys.
I got 2 wins because I picked the Denver to cover that 10-point spread. They did, and the Vikings win. I stick with the Vikings. They've been my team in the North since the start. Minnesota.
I am on Minnesota. They are plus 84. Green Bay's at plus 45. I like Minnesota's defense better than I like Green Bay's defense. And Cousins is playing maybe his best football that he's played.
Yeah, you've had that for about 5 weeks now,
I
right?
switched over. I don't know that I've ever had Green Bay. I started with Chicago.
Oh, right,
and
right.
went from Chicago to Minnesota.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
that
did.
I've ever taken the off-ramp to Green Bay yet. But
Poor Lions.
the Lions.
Nobody ever took them.
Poor guys. In the South, Saints 8-2, Carolina 5-5. It looks like that one is all said and done. Let's go to the West. You got San Francisco 9-1, Seattle 8-2, and the Rams hanging on by a thread at 6-4.
I got the Niners.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, it's fine.
Well, I have the Niners.
All right. Tough one here. This is one of the toughest ones to call, I would say, obviously, but I have Seattle. I've had Seattle pretty much the entire time. And you look at their schedule, Seattle has Vikings, Rams, Panthers, Cardinals, Niners. And then you look at San Francisco, they have Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, Rams, Seattle.
They both have it because they're both playing that division.
I think San Fran has a uphill battle right here with 3 potential losses.
Hey, I mean, if you're throwing all those, that's a both tough schedule. The Rams are saying, well, they got the Ravens. They play the Cardinals, Seahawks, Cowboys, Niners, and Cardinals. All 3 of those teams have got brutal pairings because of the divisions they got matched up with.
That's true. All I got to say is I was right about the Rams, and I was right about the Bears when this season started.
But wrong about the Falcons.
Wrong. Oh, God, wrong about the
so
Falcons.
wrong.
Not yet. I mean, they've
Couldn't
been playing
be
really
more
well.
wrong.
Not necessarily. They've been playing really well.
Wrong
Yeah,
doesn't
2 in
do
a
it
row.
justice.
It's great.
But 2 in a row, very impressively.
They have the most impressive wins of anybody in the NFL that has a losing record, right? Eagles, Saints, and who did they just beat?
Carolina.
Carolina? That's pretty good.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, Carolina and Philly are 500 teams.
Right.
Yeah.
But for most teams that have losing records as bad as them don't even have any good wins. So
And I've got San Francisco. Their offense, by the way, is way better than people get them credit for. You know, their defense has been slipping a little bit. We talked about that with Casey yesterday,
right,
about why they've been slipping a bit. All right, wild card teams in the NFC. Who you got?
I have the Niners. Obviously, they should still get in here with the record that they have, and the Vikings.
All right. I got the Packers, and I got the Seahawks, the Seahags.
Are you from Chicago?
Yeah, what is that?
Well, Minnesota people, I mean, Green Bay people talk with the same kind of Nordic accent, too.
Kind of.
Yeah, it just wasn't what you just did.
No, probably not.
Yeah, you said Nordic. I don't know what that was.
You're a leprechaun.
And I've got Seattle and Green Bay as well, which, real quick, just to kind of give some people some perspective here, the wild card teams are currently in the NFC. Minnesota and the Seahawks are 5. Minnesota is 6. The Rams are next at 7. They're 1 game out. And then Philly is next at 8. They are 2 behind the Vikings, but the Vikings beat them head-to-head. Now, this week's interesting because they play Seattle. If they beat Seattle, they would be 6-5. That would make Seattle 8-3. So you would be 2 games behind them and beat them head-to-head.
That's right.
So it's a very interesting game with wild card implications this week at the link.